Hello and welcome to Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. Today on the program we have Hayley and the Crushers, and I had a chance to sit down and chat with Hayley about their new album, Modern Adult, out September 13th, right around the corner, and we dug in deep with that, as well as her upbringing in music and so much more. Had a really great chat with her, so that was a lot of fun. It is currently like 115 degrees. I don't know. It's late, but it's 111 in Vacaville right now. So it's cooling down actually, because we had hit 115, and I'm grateful for air conditioning. That's one of the lessons from the day, is that I'm really super grateful for air conditioning in my home, because it is gnarly and it is gross outside, and you know what? I'm going to stick around inside. That's what I'm going to do tonight. That's the plan. So we have more of the same tomorrow to look forward to. But I lived in a house in Napa for 8 years that had no air conditioning, and while it's 10 to 15 degrees cooler than it is here in Vacaville, it would still be miserable there on a 100-degree day, where I'm stuck inside and losing my mind, and it's just gross and no way to cool down, and sitting over an AC unit as I'm trying to sleep, like dangling my legs, in a near birth state of clothing. Let me say that, an at birth state of clothing. I was in my birthday suit, right? There were hot days when I lived there sometimes, and luckily few and far between. There were a handful of them a year, but it got gross on the second floor in a house that didn't have air conditioning. And now, I'm here and it's hot, and I have AC, and I have solar that offsets the cost of the AC, which is really nice. So enjoy that. So as I said, this is Concert Pipeline. This is my podcast, and we talk to bands that are touring, sometimes around the Bay Area, sometimes not. Hayley and the Crushers are coming to the West Coast, I think, but not hitting the Bay Area. So hopefully on their next tour, maybe that'll happen. I want to talk a little bit about something that I don't really want to talk about. And that's an interesting point, right? That's an interesting place to be at in this opening for this program, is kind of having this topic, this thing on the tip of my tongue that I want to discuss, but that I'm actually biting my tongue to not discuss. And that is a concert I went to last night. And I made a what is it called? A drop frame. I don't remember exactly what it's called. Again, it's 115 degrees and I'm losing brain cells by the moment. But I made a box from the concert last night, because it's up there in terms of my favorite concerts of all time. And without getting into too many details of the concert and how it went, it was Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. Andrew McMahon from Something Corporate, Jack's Mannequin, and Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. He brought a show around, and it was a nostalgia show, heavy on nostalgia, but played a lot of Something Corporate tunes, as well as some that he hadn't played in years, and more than the content of the concert, which he played with Dashboard Confessional. We have footage of that on YouTube. You could check out Concert Pipeline's YouTube. I have a song from Andrew and from Dashboard up there, so check those out. Check pictures out on our Instagram at Concert Pipeline for both of those. But what I want to talk about more is really just how fortunate I feel to have such a great friend and his wife, to share these experiences with. I've been friends with my buddy Joe for over 20 years, and Andrew McMahon is one of the first artists that Joe got me into as my musical tastes were developing. And we try to go see Andrew every year when he comes to the Bay Area. We had a really great experience last night. It was memorable for all of us for different reasons that hopefully I'm going to be able to get into in a special pod separate from this one, where we can show some footage from the concert, some of the songs that they sang, pictures, talk about it, relive it. That's my hope. but it's hard to nail them down, in terms of time, to have that. But I really enjoyed the concert. So if they don't join, then I'll probably do a solo one and talk through it then. But I'm hoping they're able to join. At the time of this recording, they have not, of course. But really, again, the shared experience with a friend around music, around a concert, is unlike any other. It's something that I value so much, and getting to take a trip to San Francisco to go see a show with a band that we both are very intimately close with, in terms of how that band impacted us in our lives over the years, and our connection with that band, and being able to share that is huge. It's just huge, and it's something that I don't take for granted. Same with having a friend that to share those experiences with. So that's just what I want to kind of throw out. Is I hope that everybody watching and listening and to Concert Pipeline has someone that they can connect with, in terms of music, and really that has helped develop their music sense and taste, and that they have that commonality with, because I'm lucky to have that with my buddy Joe. And so we had a great time, and we've seen Andrew so many times over the years. And I mean, we talked about it as we were walking back to the car afterwards, and it's like, I don't even know if either of us could list how many times, or the concerts that we've seen Andrew McMahon at. That would take sitting down and writing it out, and kind of saying, okay, chronologically, when was the first time we saw Andrew McMahon, and how many times have we seen Andrew in concert? He's one of our favorites, if not our favorite. And it's super, super cool. And I hope to have Andrew on the program again as he's coming out with a new album early next year. So that's the hope. We weren't able to make it happen for this tour, but we got some great content for you. All right. So that's enough of the rambling up front of, really nothing in terms of music from the concert, but in terms of the impact of true friendships. So, all right. So let's get into my interview with Hayley and the Crushers. We talked to Hayley about the band, and her kind of coming to, to terms with this band, and kind of the other bands that led, to creating Hayley and the Crushers with Dr. Cain, and where her life's at there. We had a really great chat. So let's get into that now.
Hi.
Hey, Hayley, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. How has your day been so far?
Pretty good. I'm just preparing to take a plane to LA tomorrow, so I was just packing and doing all those little last minute things. But I managed to get my to-do list done. So
that's good. It's out of the way. You don't have to look back. You're not a very last minute packer, right? So
yeah. I have a fan in the background. Is that like an audio issue?
I don't. It doesn't seem to be. I think it's okay.
Cool.
Enjoy it. It's hot. Where are you right now?
Detroit, Michigan, actually on the border of Hamtramck and Detroit. It's like in the 80s today.
Oh, okay. I don't have to feel too bad then. I'm in the Bay Area, and it's like 100 degrees where I am. So
yeah, I'm not looking forward to LA. I feel like it's going to be really hot tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Pack the summer clothes, because we still got it here. So
what's happening? Yeah. We actually it's pretty hot here. We just had a crazy storm that was like 75-mile-per-hour winds, and like knocked out like 300,000 people's power. And like, I'm not used to weather, so it's really strange. Like, I'm not used to it. I'm from California.
Yeah. You're and you are from the Bay Area, or you lived in the Bay Area for a little bit? Is that right? Or
no, I was born in San Francisco, but I lived mostly in like the South Bay, LA area, or in the Central Coast. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And how was growing up in the LA area? What was that like for you?
Well, I lived in Hermosa Beach on Valley Drive near 2nd Street, like near the Strand. So that was kind of beachy and fun. And I had my little wiener dog and my skateboard, and I would like skateboard the Strand and go down to the liquor store to get my mom a newspaper. She would always tell me to ask for cigarettes as well, as a joke. And I always tell people this, but I think it's just really indicative of the time, like early 90s, like 94, and like Baywatch being on the beach, or like they would literally be like filming, and hanging out at the beach with my friends and just very like idyllic, I would say. I moved away from that area when I was 10, but then I returned back to Southern California when I was like around 16. And I had a whole teenage just debauchery love affair with Southern California as a teenager, being in an all-girl band and just being in the punk scene and shit. So it's been kind of a wild ride. I feel like I've really done Southern California, and although I miss California, I just moved to Detroit. I mean, I feel like I really experienced it, like the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, yeah. And so tell me about your time in Detroit and like the music scene. How is that out there?
Well, we just moved about 5 months ago, and we just packed up all our shit and moved here. So a lot of the time has been like trying to find a house, trying to get everything settled. But so far, the music scene in Detroit is very cool. I would say it's very like garage and blues based from what I've seen, and it kind of seems like, I mean, newsflash, the White Stripes, but it seems like the echoes of the White Stripes are very much strong and here and present in a way that is very, and also the MC5 and Iggy and the Stooges, everyone plays super loud and they start their shows super late. So it's a little more hardcore than California for sure in that way. But yeah, I'm just kind of delving into it. So it's been kind of a fun experience, and the people are nice. I would say that. I mean, that Midwest hospitality is just, it permeates everything here. And I don't care what anyone says about Detroit. The people here have been so welcoming and friendly.
Yeah, and your house. I think I saw some videos online of your house and kind of some of the unique intricacies of it. Let me say, tell me about your house and kind of how that came about.
Well, we were looking for a house in Detroit, and we found about, we kind of stumbled upon, well, not stumbled upon, we used to tour through Hamtramck area, which is like not technically Detroit, but is technically Detroit. It's a little bit north from downtown. It's like 10 minutes from downtown, and it's technically its own city. It's 2 square miles. Their like motto is see the world in 2 square miles. I think that the school children here in the school district speak over 25 languages or 24 languages, extremely multicultural, and it's a very cool area. So we had toured through and played like the Outer Limits Lounge, which is like right on the border of Hamtramck and Detroit. And we always kind of knew there was this little area where there was Smalls, which is a great punk venue, the Sanctuary, which is a great punk venue, and Outer Limits. We kind of thought like, oh, this is kind of a cool little art community coming up. And so there were only like 4 or 5 houses available in Hamtramck proper. And we're on the border, but I still consider it Hamtramck. And so we just were like, okay, let's just get in here and see what they are. And they were all these little tiny, all these houses were built in the 20s. And these were people that worked, at the automotive factories and stuff. These were Polish immigrants. Now it's like Yemeni and Bangladeshi immigrants. And all the houses were super weird. As a San Francisco person, you can probably appreciate that sense of like things being very old and put together by like shoestring and bubble gum, and like people coming from different countries. Yeah. Like we found that like the man who lived in this house before us, which is I think was built in 1924 or 25. I keep forgetting, but he had used like the inside of like a school binder to like for like a key hook, and like he was like collecting like shoes in the basement and like all sorts of weird shit like that. But my husband / bass player / rat dog dad, Dr. Reed Cain Esquire, is an amazing builder. That's like his profession. It is his profession. And so he's had quite a time going through and realizing, oh, there's no insulation. Oh, there's a lot of fixer-uppers here in Detroit, and we are certainly on that journey of like, are we going to be that person on the home improvement show that's like, that person, the person that really over their head, and then there's like, are we going to make it before the end of the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting. We're really we're in full construction mode. We're in the one room of the house where these are 100-year-old plaster walls that for some reason this living room is like untouched, but the floor is plywood. There's, the walls are knocked out. It's all like an adventure for sure.
Yeah. Was this the first house you bought?
It's the first house
So,
I've bought personally. So Dr. Cain has a house he bought in San Luis Obispo before we married. And when it came around to getting this house, financially it worked out better for me to be on it for financial reasons. But I think it's kind of funny. It's very like Frida Kahlo, like because she and her husband, the famous muralist, I'm forgetting his name. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, they had two separate houses. And so although we are married, our record collections are separate. And now we're joking that like this is the Detroit house is my house and the California house is his house. But yeah, it's a first for me. And for people that don't have a lot of money, and I'm a freelance writer, I don't make a lot of money. You can come to Detroit and you can, if you're willing to like build some shit and like really, go in and build, you can do whatever you want. So I'm definitely not like an outlier. I'm very lucky though.
Yeah, yeah. I just bought my first house a couple months ago, and I tell you, I mean, it's the craziest thing because it's like you make the decision, like one of the biggest decisions of your life in like 15 minutes, right? Like, yeah, because you get that time where you get to walk through, and especially in the market now. And I'm not sure if it's as crazy in Detroit, but it's like if you don't get it right then, and that same day, then someone else is going to. You don't get even the weekend to decide.
Yeah, congratulations. That's amazing.
Well, thank you.
And I 100% agree. There's very few things in life where they tell you don't sleep on it. They're like, no, you need, like, especially in Detroit, in this little Hamtramck area, there were only like 3 or 4 houses available. So it was like, if you want to get a cheap house and you want to get something in the area with all the punk venues and the fun food and all the good stuff, you got to like get on that. And I totally agree. It's just such a trip. And I don't know. I think it's been a like growing up experience for me. I'm in my mid 30s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't want kids. So there's very few of those like life moments that I'm married. So it's like, well, what's next? Okay, I'm gonna get menopause or something, and then what? Do I get a party for that? Like what's the next?
You might. You can always throw yourself a party for that, right? And yeah, it is. No matter what stage you're at, it's a big decision. I mean, I have 2 kids, but I'm a single parent, and it's kind of was a co-parenting thing to move and buy this house and all of that. And it just happened to work out. My dad was passing through the area at the same time, in a time where I had to walk through, and I'm like, okay, come look at it. Just tell me if there's anything, anything. But because I'm like, I'm not the handiest of people, right? And I'm like, okay, there's stuff I'm going to miss, but I just need to make sure I get a good spot, and got in right before that, everything went crazy, and with interest rates and prices and all that. It's nuts, right?
Yeah, look at us, like a couple adults.
Yeah, I know.
Like real estate. Ooh, it makes me feel so grown up. There are rites of passage after like your teen, like and early 20s. I feel like there's so few rites of passage that you can even go through. It's like, I got what are they called? A mouth guard. Is that like for that?
That's exciting. You could party for whatever reason you need to, right? So
I agree. I think that we should all be proud of like whatever those next steps are. Like, and it's not always something big like a house. Sometimes it's just like I changed my strings before the show this time. Like,
Yeah.
That's
good. It'll get to the point one day where it's like, I didn't poop in my Depends. Let's celebrate. So,
right.
it'll get.
It's all about context. It certainly is all about context. That is what life is about. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can go back to the band a bit, but I'm interested in your comic book shop. You had a comic book shop, and tell me kind of how that came about, and the decision to sell it.
Well, my husband, Dr. Reed Cain Esquire, the only fake doctor, fake lawyer in the world, he or the best fake doctor and fake lawyer in the world. There might be others. He purchased it. He didn't purchase it. He started it. He founded it. He created that business about 11 years ago in downtown San Luis Obispo, California. And he was, before that, lived in Oakland, and he was very into Dr. Comics and Mr. Games, I want to say. That's what it's called. It's in Oakland. And he worked there briefly. And so when he moved to San Luis Obispo, he was actually going to pursue architecture, but then he kind of went a different direction. But he did do some architecture and building in San Luis Obispo. During 2008, during the downturn, he was like, okay, well, what the heck? Like, there's no jobs. There's nothing to do in the construction business in 2008. So he thought, like, what the hell? I'll just start a comic book store. And so he started Dr. Cain's Comics. The name being kind of like his like evil villain name, Dr. Cain, and kind of like an homage to like his favorite comic book store in the Bay Area. And yeah, he had that for about 11 years. And it's like, it's a really romantic thing because I used to work there. That, you know, we kind of met through his, you know, hanging out at his shop, and he would carry like zines. And one of my favorite zines is Comet Bus, which I'm sure you're aware of, in the Bay Area. And so there are all sorts of little connections like that. He got me into like Scott Pilgrim. That was like the first graphic novel I got into. And anyways, he sold it in 2018 or 19 so that we could tour more, because we both decided, you know, we really want to expand and travel the country in our van with our dogs and just like do this Crushers thing. Like, let's do it for reals. Let's tour. Let's go to new cities. So of course he let go of his beautiful shop. He actually sold it to a friend, Patrick Hayes, who still owns it and is kicking ass with it. Honestly, he's doing a great job, maybe even better than Dr. Cain did. And because Dr. Cain's a grump and is set in his own ways, and that's what we love about him. So yeah, so he sold it, and we were gonna tour and stuff, and then of course we did do some touring. But then of course COVID happened, and it was kind of like one of those wah-wah situations where we were so ready to like fly away from the coop that it was very unfortunate, like when the selling of the business happened and our ambitions with touring were really heating up, and then we were forced to stay on the Central Coast. But, and I will let you talk because I know I talk a lot. I think it really was a blessing. It was, and I wonder if people can relate to this, if they also felt, okay, so first I felt resistance having to stay where I was and not being able to tour. Second, I had like a little mini ego death of like all the things I wanted to do in life and what I was going to do before I turned 33 or some arbitrary bullshit stuff. And then I got over my old bullshit, realized it was stupid. And then I came around and realized, oh my gosh, every single person in this town I appreciate and love. My family, reconnected with different members of my family, treated my town like a tourist. I went and saw the wildflowers. I went kayaking to the lighthouse. I did all the little things that I kind of took for granted. And I think a lot of people could probably relate to that, like being forced to be grounded and kind of bloom where you're planted. It was actually a blessing, and it allowed us to like really take stock of like where we are in life and the wonderful people who have like helped like raise us as musicians. And like it was actually really beautiful. So as much as it was kind of a bittersweet and very like tumultuous time, you know, we got a great album out of it, like our new album, and we got this great story out of it. And I think we've grown as people, and we were able to move away from a place, not moving away from California, but towards something else. And that was not how we felt before COVID. So yeah, that's how I like frame it in my mind so I don't get sad.
Yeah, no, it's, you know, COVID hit everybody differently for sure. And we were all in this kind of collective thing, right? I mean, it's something, I looked at it as kind of this thing that it divided us in ways, but it also unified us in another way, right? Because we all have an experience. And I'll tell you, I mean, before COVID, like I didn't have Zoom and wasn't able to do Zoom interviews. I'd go to concerts and interview the bands always at the show. And that was just kind of how it worked. And now I've been able to talk to bands all over the world, you know, and really expand the ability. And also you fit it into a spot between like sound check and food. And they're like thinking about the food, right? So you got maybe 15, 20, we can take it, you know, however long the conversation goes, you know, naturally. And it opens up those doors a lot better. So there are good things that came from it as well, and growth and all of that, right?
Yeah, so. That's like what you just said is a perfect example. It's really leveled up how you do what you do, and you probably aren't the same person anymore because you're like, oh, I'm this whole different interview. I'm this whole different, you know, person that's has like the power now. Like you kind of gave us power in certain ways. Like it gave us like agency in certain ways. It took away a lot of freedom, but I feel like as much as it took away, it allowed us to like all grow stronger. I mean, I know people that didn't do anything during COVID. I mean, I didn't write my novel. I thought I was going to, but I know people that like worked out a lot. I know people that broke up and it needed to happen. It needed to happen. People that got together, it needed to happen. And
I was one of those, by the way. So yeah, absolutely. Like she moved in, you know, at the beginning of COVID. Not a good time to move in, by the way. Didn't make things more comfortable. And then it happened a little bit later. You know, things got tense, and anyway, we don't need to get too deep with that, but
We need things to accelerate. I mean, we often need things to accelerate our lives because our brains will just continue to tell us to stay in the comfort zone. So that was one. It's like, of course, in 2022, we can say that people were dying and are dying, and like it was atrocious and horrific during the time. But I don't think there's anything wrong with like reframing it in a way of like, yeah, like we all came out of it in a better way. Like this new album is an example of that in the sense that we leveled up in certain ways and then we wrote a more mature record. It's more real, and it's one we couldn't have done if we hadn't gone through a lot of heartache and pain. And like every member of the band went through their own journey. So,
Yeah.
if art is like what I aim to do in my life, like I couldn't ask for a greater gift, like I hate, it just sounds so cheesy, but that is this is all the good and bad of life. You can't just be like whimsical and having a great party forever. Like that just gets boring. I mean, I don't like any bands that are just fun forever. Like you got to have some sad songs. You got to have some, disharmony in your life. It can't just be da-da-da, like Bop, Hanson Brothers, like.
Yeah. Can't all be perfect, right? And yeah, and I want to get into the new album, but I do want to kind of build some of the foundation for that, that kind of built to that, because you and Dr. Cain each had your own kind of collective experiences and styles that kind of built this, not just this album, but the band in general. I mean, you joined his band 10 years ago. He had a country band, right?
Yeah.
And tell me about that. Like, I mean, what was that like? And did you adjust? I mean, because country was not part of your style upbringing.
No, and I'll try to do like the quick version of it because I do get a little verbose. But I as a teenager I was in the punk scene in downtown just like all the words are just coming out of my mouth today in Southern California. I almost said like downtown California. That's
downtown California,
that's like a bar. Like that should be a crazy stupid bar, like a casino or something. Anyways, so I was in the punk scene. That was fun, but it was also a lot of partying and stuff. And so when I turned early 20s, I think 21 or 22, I was like, I need to get out of this. I need to like move back to where my dad lived, and he lives in the Central Coast of California, and that's a beautiful place. It's San Luis Obispo County. It's wine country. There's country music. There's horses. My dad had horses. And so when I moved back home to my dad's house, and I was living in his basement, early 20s, I realized like, cause I had gone to high school a couple years up there. I realized like, I don't have any friends here anymore. All my punk rock and roll friends, I love them dearly, but it's too much happening down there. We can all relate to those times when everybody just seems to be spinning in their own directions. I was just like, I need to get the fuck out. And so I was like, well, what am I gonna do? So I learned banjo. I was like, I guess I'll just learn the banjo. So I took banjo lessons. I was getting into bluegrass, which really is 3 chords in the truth. I mean, it is very similar to punk. And I was just getting into country bluegrass. I was really into like Loretta Lynn and like Dolly Parton, and these women that I realized were just as feminist as like Exene Cervanka or whatever. Like these are women that were punk when it was like really hard to be punk. They're singing about getting the birth control pill and singing about, empowerment. And like Dolly Parton was like embracing her sexuality. And like, I was just really getting into like the good country, and like Waylon Jennings and his outlaw mentality. All those things were kind of like, I was like, yeah, man, like this is like punk, but country punk. I like this. Like, I feel like I can handle this. It's not like all about drugs, except for Waylon Jennings. That is all about drugs.
All about drugs.
All about the cocaine. And so that's how I met my husband, Dr. Cain, or Reed Cain. And I was playing banjo. He would come see my band. I'd go see his band, Red Eye Junction, which still has way more Spotify followers on it than our band does together. And I joined that band. And my first tour, I think I was like 23, and he said, well, do you want to ring or do you want to go on tour? And I was like, I want to go on tour. And so that was our first tour together, playing country music and learning about living in a van and learning about washing in a river and in a lake. And I couldn't say the shows were that fantastic really, but I have very fond memories of that time. And like, he comes from actually like a very like crust punk background, 90s Bay Area kind of, I don't know, no deodorant, that kind of thing. And like more the grindy, like he loves Neurosis. He loves like shit like that, like heavy. And so he kind of went from that to country, and I went from like punk to country. And so together through that, we kind of like realized, oh, we both have these different appetites for music. And from there, we ended up starting a punk band together called Magazine Dirty. And that was really fun. And then from there was the Crushers. And so each installment of our relationship has seen, you know, albums and EPs and singles, and we're always working on music together. So that's kind of how it all came together. So yeah, thank you for asking that. I don't always get questions about the country side of things.
Oh yeah. No, I mean it's definitely a unique piece, right? Especially when you talk about the whole style and dynamic. It's like it seems so far removed from country that it's interesting to hear about that piece of I mean, it's a piece of what built you to this point, right? And your relationship with
Yeah.
Dr. Cain.
And it's still, he loves his country. He loves like John Party. That's like a new guy, just came out with a new record, I think. He loves, like, we get in the van and it's just like a constant battle because he wants to listen to like either 90s country, that's either like, you know, super 90s country, or it's pop country, or it's outlaw country. But I'm always trying to get on the 90s channel because I just want to listen to like Ace of Base. And then we'll settle on just like the soul channel because we're really into that right now because it feels right for where we live. And so I think not the best, but the musicians that I like the most, I always end up finding out they like such weird shit, you know, because you bring all these elements into the band. And if all you listen to is punk and then you have a punk band, it's just not gonna, gonna be multifaceted, you know. If you look at bands like X, it's like, oh, they listen to every kind of music and brought it in, you know. And I feel like that to me is always like the people I gravitate towards, where their record collection is like a million things, you know. They have exotica, they have jazz, they have country, they have funk, you know, they have, you know, everything. Like I think it's, and yeah, country's great. People need to stop shitting on country.
Yeah, I mean, I had my period of country. It was a long time ago, but that was seventh grade for me, I'll tell you. Nice. And so, I mean, you mentioned the record collection. You have yours, and he has his. Can you even just sit down and listen to a record with him and just relax and just be like, "We're gonna throw this on," or do you know, how does that work?
Well, normally, yeah, I hate to admit it, but I mean, we don't really listen to vinyl unless we're entertaining. And I haven't been able to do that since I moved. But normally it would look something like I would pick 4 or 5 records out, and it might be like some Nancy Sinatra, some random old reggae that probably belongs to Reed that I've never even heard of, that I'm like, ooh, I want to check this out. Maybe some surf music, maybe there's like some Motley Crue and like some Madonna and some Go-Go's, like random shit. Like I would pick out 5 or 6 records and put them out by the record player, and I would start dinner. And then as people came in, we would just kind of see what the flow of the party was doing. And usually it would be so jarring that someone would be like, wait, what, we're doing this now? We're not doing the Talking Heads now, or something like that. And so we kind of really listen to vinyl in a very chaotic way that I feel like is very similar to our personalities, which is just like, we're both very chaotic, as you can probably already tell. And so we kind of do it that way. We rarely ever sit down and be like, let's put this record on the turntable and get our corncob pipes and like sit down. But I would say but doing what you're saying, like where you actually listen, what we really do is when we're in the van on a long drive going to a city, we'll be like, let's listen to, you know, the new Rat Queen record and really listen to it. And so that's our like time to really get into it.
Yeah, you have a lot of time on the road to dig in there. For sure. One thing, I'm bouncing around a little bit, but one thing that I was interested in is the videos that you made with your sister to Weezer's Blue album.
Where did you hear about that? That definitely is true. I don't remember ever saying that, but I would have said that.
Tell me about it. What happened there?
My big sister had like 4 CDs. It was like Oasis. What was it? Wonderwall? Is that what it was?
What's the Story, Morning Glory?
Yeah. It was Oasis. It was Weezer, the Blue album, Mariah Carey, Dream Lover, oh my God, and TLC, Crazy Sexy Cool. I think that's what it was called. Chasing Waterfalls. Anyway, she had the radio hits of the day, right? And Weezer
Yeah.
was such a big deal in the early 90s. And yeah, we would sit around with our clunky old like, video camera and make literally like stupid music videos where we're just, I don't know, I don't even know what we were doing, but I mean, I can't be the only one who did this. We also did
No, no.
A lot with Oasis songs, but Weezer, I don't know, Weezer is just a really fun band. Like, I don't know, like I associate them with like being a little kid and like dressing up and like singing into a hairbrush, and I don't know. There's not really much story there except that that informed me, and I still, anytime I'm at a bar and one of those songs comes on, I mean, I'm not the only millennial who does that. Like, I just put my drink down and just start singing, you know? I did get to sing once with Geezer, which is a Weezer.
Yeah, yes. Zach Goody was in Geezer, right? And he's the new lead singer of Smash Mouth.
What?
Yes. You didn't know that, did you?
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah. I interviewed him a couple months ago, actually, and went down to see them down, down south somewhere, a couple hours away. But
Oh.
yeah, they have a new lead singer. I mean,
I just sang one song with them at like a bowling alley one time, but I just remember like just being so excited, and
yeah,
it's one of those bands. I mean, I feel like it just is so, it's so of that era to me. I don't know, like that was a really interesting, like I Butthole Surfers, them, who else? I mean,
yeah,
obviously like when Nirvana came out, that was a big deal. That's a little before my time, but
sure.
I feel like there was always like someone's older sister or brother that was like into college rock, that
Yeah.
had like all these kind of cool, like, ooh, this is like kind of like alternative, it wasn't like punk, but it was hooky and had a lot of melody and a lot of like point of view. Yeah, I love Weezer.
Yeah. No, they're good times. I've seen them a good handful of times, and they put on a good show. So
Nice. I've never seen them.
Yeah. Okay. So the new album, Modern Adult, I got a chance to listen to it. I dig it. It's your third album with Hayley and the Crushers, right? And so tell me kind of your process for following up, your previous release with this new album. Like, how do you approach it, and kind of the dynamic of you and Dr. Cain in kind of building this, because it's got such, pizzazz is, I think, a word to it, like 80s, I mean, there's so many like feelings that, and different bands that kind of like flow in. I want to hear from you about it.
I love it. Just like, I feel like 80s, and there's different feelings, and
there's feelings.
No, but like, that's such a good point. Like, yeah, you just hit the nail on the head. That's like the most vague, but also so true. It's like, it's kind of 80s, and there's a lot of feelings. I love that. I should just tell people that's what it's about. But
it like, goes on, put that on the album. Yes.
Yeah, that's really funny. That makes me laugh. So our previous album was Vintage Millennial, which is all about being an old millennial, and that was very upbeat and sunny and fun, and I would say had a little bit more 60s references in it, maybe a little 80s, but kind of like a retro. We're a retro. We're like a oldies punk band, we're kind of, we bring retro into what we do. And so for this album, yes, we definitely leaned more towards 80s and 90s vibes. I've heard a lot of people say it kind of gives them some 90s vibes, weirdly. Maybe not weirdly, but I think that's just because the songs are a little bit more, I don't know, they're more layered, they're more lush, they're more radio friendly, for better or worse. They're more real. A lot of the songs were written during times of struggle, as I've kind of foreshadowed. And even so, there's a lot of joy there. And I do feel like certain people will just get the joy out of it, and they won't scratch the surface into the lyrics. And that's fine. Like, not everything has to be this deep emotional connection. I think our song California Sober is kind of like that. It's more like a wink and a nod to like the people that are in our lives that, have this Zen wellness mentality of how they're so emotionally, healthy and whatever, because they do psychedelics, but they don't drink alcohol and this kind of thing. That's obviously a sarcastic song. It's about a real topic. It's about real people kind of wasting their lives, but it's also like a fun and danceable hit. So we do Modern Adult Kicks. The name came from Reed and I being on the road. I think we were somewhere in Illinois and we were at the Elks Lodge. So I'm a 9-year Elks member, and we always take the van to the Elks Lodges and park because it's very cheap or free, and the drinks are usually very cheap, and there's good people usually all the time, and food and stuff. And so we were sitting there, and then like those like stupid cheesy like music channels that come on TV, and they're called like you can just literally put it on like a music channel, and the music channel, it's like smooth jazz or like
sure it's just
like,
a whole style, right?
Poppy children, I don't know, whatever. So anyways, we were sitting there, and the TV, it was like Modern Adult Hits, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. That's the stupidest thing I've heard. And originally the album was going to be called Modern Adult Hits, but then we realized it's very presumptuous and people wouldn't get the joke that, obviously we don't think that every song is a hit. And so we changed it to Kicks, and it kind of made sense to us because the album, as much as it is about kind of like growing up as a band, and there's songs about heartbreak, alienation, codependency, addiction, feeling lost, not knowing if you're going to make it, like those are real feelings we all feel. It's definitely still upbeat, and it definitely still has like a heart to it. And so it just all kind of made sense. Like, okay, this is like the next era of this band where we're going from vintage millennial to Modern Adult Kicks. And I think that it's just a very natural groove,
Yeah. And so were there like specific musical influences that you kind of wanted to incorporate to the style of the song?
I mean, always, like, we were listening a lot to like End of the Century by the Ramones, and thinking about Phil Spector, and like thinking about like lushness and layers and textures, and how can we elevate a 3-piece punk band into, if you listen to the album, there's multiple guitars. Obviously, I'm not playing all those guitars. Some of those guitars Dr. Cain's playing. Some of those guitars our friend Jeff's playing. Our friend Trenton's playing. Our friend John Miller's playing. We had John Miller singing in the background on Broken Window, like basically mimicking my voice. We had all these people kind of come in that we trusted with our vision to kind of like fill it out and make it more lush. And so I guess to answer your question, we really just wanted to give it like that extra layer of like dimension. And I don't know, like, I guess we did think a lot about like Phil Spector and how he created Wall of Sound. I know that sounds like very pie in the sky to reach for something like that, but like on I Fall, for example, like the way that it fades out and the amount of guitars and repetition and things that are happening at the end of that song. I mean, we were really trying to emulate that idea of like keeping melodies, counter melodies, and another melody on top of that kind of going throughout a song, and like how you build a song. So I'm not sure that answers your question, but we really wanted to build, and we also wanted to slow our sound down a bit, not because it's more radio friendly, but we just felt like we want to make like a radio rock record. Like I wanted to do that. I love pop music and I love writing poppy music, and it felt like an adult thing to do. And so maybe the next record is just going to be the most punk rock, chaotic thing you've ever heard. But this is like what was right for us at the moment. And with the production team we had at Kitten Robot Records, which was a very elevated team with Paul Rossler as our producer. And he's an amazing, both singer, producer, and keyboardist. My God, yeah, he's everywhere on the record, and he's phenomenal. And we were like, well, we're not gonna just like do a 3-piece garage band. We need to like, I don't know, like put our little spin on like the radio hits and just allow it to be that. And if that's dorky, fine,
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. And so what did Paul bring, to you? Had you worked with him before, or?
I hadn't. So Paul's really cool. He was a founding member of the band The Screamers, which is like a original Los Angeles 77 punk band. And he was actually probably, I want to say he was the first like punk rock producer, but I know there were probably others, but he was like one of the first ones who became sort of like known for doing that and working with bands like TSOL back in the day, and taking his wide breadth of knowledge, and his actually very he was also in 45 Grave, if you like them. Also he's got a very cerebral way of looking at music and production. He also has a very wide breadth of knowledge. Being of a different generation, more of an older generation, you know, he has respect for bands like the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones and all of that. And you can bring that into his, but he also lived through like that first generation of punk in Los Angeles, which was so eccentric and so eclectic and so many different vibes. I mean, you had like Stray Cats and you had the Slits, or not the Slits, Alice Bag. The Slits are in England, but like Alice Bag, and you had, you know, X, and you had the Plugs and all these different bands. Are they San Francisco? Anyways, I'm just gonna
it's okay, you got this.
Black Flag and all these different bands coming together. And I just feel like I get my California bands mixed up sometimes. All these different, you know, genres kind of mixing together to like make it this really fun and funky, like the Germs are over here. And he went through all that. I feel like having a producer that not only understands how wacky punk can be in that spirit of wackiness and like how to play in that, but also has this wide breadth of knowledge of music and is actually extremely talented and cerebral and knows how to do all this shit. I mean, we couldn't have asked for a better person to like tinker with our sound. And we gave him, we're like, look, we want to have creative control of a lot of this. And we want to kind of like lead the ship, but we want you to take us on detours. And we want you to tell us when we are failing at something and be really brutally honest where we can improve. And he did do that. And so again, it's like a growth experience where we kind of, you know, came out, you know, out of that like more mature, you know. So all of that with Paul was amazing. And we really owe it to Josie Cotton, because that's her label, Kitten Robot Records, and her studio, Kitten Robot Studios in LA. And she believed in us, brought us into her like wacky family and her team of all these kind of eccentric punks and rockers and God knows who. We got a goth in there somewhere, and like all these different kind of characters, they all kind of helped us just kind of raise the bar a bit without losing ourselves.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, great to have so much support behind your band and that album, you know, to make it happen.
Incredible, yeah. I mean, there's just no big labels anymore that are worth, like, nobody's trying to get on a big label. Having a label that's intimate and is a good team that communicates and all wants to do something weird together. I mean, that's all I think musicians today can really hope to achieve. To me, anyways, that's how I feel. Having people around you that get you and want to see you succeed, and like, you know, they're just such a different landscape than what we've heard about in the 90s or the 80s or whatnot. And I'm very happy with where we're at. I love it. I love Kitten Robot.
Yeah, they're good to you.
I have to plug them though, you know, when someone believes in you and picks you up when when it doesn't mean anything to them. I mean, it's not like they were getting anything out of it. So the fact that they have given us so much of their like confidence and put their money where their mouth is and really like elevated us, I will never ever forget that. Like, I'm just very grateful. I am.
That's really awesome. That's really awesome. And you mentioned Los Angeles. I mean, you have a tour that's ending in Los Angeles, but it's coming up here in just a couple of weeks. Like, tell me about what you have planned for the tour.
Yeah, so we're taking off from Fort Wayne and we're heading through Chicago. We have 3 dates in Ohio. We're doing like Cleveland, Toledo, and Columbus. My brain today, my gosh. We are doing some Detroit shows, and then we're gonna swing back around to California in November and do San Pedro down south, also Los Angeles, and also San Diego. Forgive me, my brain is really like chaotic today.
It's okay. It's great.
Those little details are just really, I'm having a hard time with them today. But yeah, so we're just kind of trying to get the record out there. We hope that people want to dance and enjoy it. If anyone hasn't come out to see us, Dr. Cain is hilarious, and he will probably make you feel uncomfortable at some point and try to play bass right into your face. We do offer free kidney punches at the merch table if anybody needs. And we are taking 2 wonderful guys with us on the road. So we're taking Brendan, our drummer, and we're also taking Kellen, our lead guitar player, on the road. And they are like honorary crushers. We kind of have like a situation where by necessity, but also kind of adds to the band. Dr. Cain and I can kind of bring people in and have them join the party for whether it's a week, a month, a couple years, whatever. It's all about just bringing the music to the people. And so we're really grateful we actually have a lead guitarist this time. So that's really exciting. So it'll be sort of an elevated show, and yeah, we'll have the new record. So like that's the one thing I'm the most excited about. Like I've heard so many people recently be like, "Oh, I have this. I have your records. I have your T-shirt." Not that I'm complaining, but this has been 2 years in the making, and it's 2 years is a long time, and we're out here new record like ready to deliver that shit to your face.
Yeah, no, I like it. One other thing I wanted to kind of end with that I thought was cool. I'm from Napa. I don't live there now. I moved, but just a little bit away. But I saw on your blog, "Is your boyfriend in the band?" That you wrote Jericonda in Napa, in a cabin in Napa, right?
Yeah, it was up near like Clear Lake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Is that Lake Lomond? So I keep telling people it was Lake Lomond, or like that's the town.
I don't know what Lomond is, so I need to look that up.
It was like a Northern California town. Dr. Cain was working on someone's house, and it was very isolated. I was completely alone for a long time. And that's actually also the time where I learned No Substitute, which is the cover on the album as well. Because I was like, man, I guess there's a theme here. Whenever I'm bored, I just start making things. But yeah, Jacaranda. I like how you said Jacaranda. Jacaranda. Either one. I don't know how it's said. It's really we're having fun today. It's really I wrote it during the time that he was selling the comic book store, and we were touring, and we were really like feeling our wild oats and feeling like, let's do this for reals together. And the song is kind of about like the jacaranda trees blooming in San Luis Obispo, and feeling like they were this like signal or like alarm bell in my soul that like there was more to the world, because these trees, they bloom actually on their own schedule, weirdly, but usually it's like May through July. They're like a subtropical bright purple tree. If someone doesn't know, please Google jacaranda tree. They're bright purple, and they're almost like this big breath of fresh air of like and it made me feel like, oh, there's so much more to the world. There's so much that's beyond the everyday. And these trees just kind of inspired me. And anyways, I was up in Northern California thinking about this, and that's kind of where it all kind of came together. And yeah, Northern California is a very special place. I mean, California in general is special. All of these songs are written in California. And I've had people tell me like we're a very Californian band, and they can hear it in the music. And it's one of those things where you really can't fake that. It just kind of comes out. And I do find that to be a wonderful compliment, because Californians, I mean, nobody does it like the Californians do it. So
it's true.
If we can be exotic and bring that to the Midwest and be completely normal and not exotic in California, mind you, but come here and be somehow unicorns, we're just so grateful for that, because we cannot divorce it from who we are. And yeah, I mean, the trees, right? The trees are always the trees are always talking to me. That's not a problem, right?
No. I mean, if the trees talk to you, it's not a problem. But if you talk to the trees, then it's a little different. So no.
Medication for this. I can already tell, like listening back to this, I'm gonna be like, wow, Hayley, don't tell people that.
You see, you said too much, right? No.
Yeah, seriously.
Too much of an insight. No, that's what this is good for, right?
Yeah.
Dig deep. Get under the outer layer a little bit. So I think today.
It's all there. I mean, I'm sure fans of the band will know that we're all a little wacky, and that's just how we are. That's the Crusherverse,
Yeah, you're colorful, and and just kind of looking at your Instagram, it's like one of the most colorful, like just like it's a pop of color, just like it's amazing. It's great.
What a compliment. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yes.
Of course.
That is just what the world needs. So that's who we are. We're here to provide that. Absolutely.
Yes. Well, Hey, I appreciate you taking the time, and I wish you luck with the release of the new album and rolling out on tour and being able to kind of find that middle ground with who's choosing the music on in the van when you're rolling out west and stuff. So
We can always agree on Huey Lewis and the News. So
truer words have never been said, right? You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with Huey Lewis.
that's
Does it.
right. Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate it. And yeah, hold down the fort out there.
That was my interview with Hayley and the Crushers here on Concert Pipeline. And that takes us to the final segment on the program, the music news. I have a couple of stories to wind out the program here today. The first being the status of Blink-182. We've talked about it a little bit, but I just want to kind of ponder it a little bit more, as I'm really intrigued, and I'm hoping we hear something in the near future. Early last month, Mark DeLong had said there's nothing really to see here. But then a couple weeks later, he went back and said he hinted that DeLong could be set to rejoin Blink after reconciliation. He said the original trio are in a really great place right now. And it comes after Tom DeLong, Mark Hoppus opened up about a home visit with DeLong and Travis Barker that has left the trio in a really good place. It was the first time that all three of us were in the same room in like 5 years. He told People Magazine of the informal meeting, which took place before he began chemotherapy in 2021. It's actually better than it used to be. There was no agenda. There were no lingering grudges. It felt very back to what it should be. Three friends sitting in a room. He said, I keep writing music and I'm open to whatever the next phase of Blink is. I'm hopeful for the future. I'm just damn glad to be here. For those that aren't familiar, he was diagnosed with 4A diffuse large B-cell lymphoma last year before revealing to fans in September that he was cancer-free. So he went through quite a struggle, and he's pushed forward and is hopefully getting the band back together, so to speak, right? And Matt Skiba said that he doesn't even know if he's in Blink-182 anymore. He hasn't been told, so see what happens there, right? Okay. Ozzy Osbourne has a new song out called Nothing Feels Right, and it's with Zakk Wylde. So it's taken from Osbourne's forthcoming album, Patient Number 9, and it's Wylde's first appearance on an Ozzy record since 2007. I think they've been friends for throughout this whole time. I don't think there was any animosity or breakup or anything. And Zakk Wylde even had a Black Sabbath tribute band of sorts called Zakk Sabbath. But Ozzy shared one more preview of the record. This song, Nothing Feels Right, which has Zakk Wylde on guitar. Zakk Wylde is an amazing guitarist. Love him. So I haven't checked out this song yet, but I need to do that after we wrap here probably. He's regularly toured with Ozzy and played guitar for several solo albums, such as 88's No Rest for the Wicked, 91's No More Tears, 1995's Osmosis, and 2001's Down to Earth, and multiple live records. Zakk Wylde was also one of those bands. We talked earlier about Andrew McMahon, and the influence on me. Zakk Wylde was absolutely an influence on me. And I remember going to a Black Label Society show with my buddy Joe and buddy Chris at the time. And we were on Zack's tour bus with him and hanging out. And he offered us a drink. I was, we were all less than 21, but and I didn't drink at the time, right, at all. And so I just took a Red Bull from the car. Like, yeah, a Red Bull's cool, and so I didn't have anything to prove to anyone. I do kind of regret it a little bit. I'm like, come on, if there's a time to, have my first drink, it should have been with Zakk Wylde. I should have gone there, but I didn't. And no regrets, right? And Zakk Wylde was playing us his new album that wasn't even out yet at the time. He was playing it on his tour bus and rocking out to it, and it was this amazing experience with a fucking amazing guitar player. One of the best out there. And he has a sound all his own, and it's so great. So, man, we've interviewed Zach a couple times over the years, but it's been years since I've interviewed him. So I would love to catch up with Zach again at some point. I should try and make that happen. Okay, so yeah, there's a bunch of other great people on Ozzy's album that he has coming out. So more to come with that. Aerosmith performed their first show since before the pandemic, and it also marked Steven Tyler's first concert since returning from rehab in July. So they performed at Main Savings Amphitheater, and let's see, they last performed is in Las Vegas residency in February 2022, right before shit hit the fan, right? And before their European and UK tour appearances were canceled. They did not return to the road in 2021, but announced that the residency would resume in March of this year. They had to cancel the residency, citing Tyler's relapse and commencement of rehab. Our beloved brother Steven has worked on his sobriety for many years, the band said in a statement at the time. He has recently relapsed and voluntarily entered a treatment program to concentrate on his health. There was Joey Kramer's leave of absence from the band earlier in the year. And so it was their longest period off stage since forming in 1970. Long freaking time they've been out. And so Tyler came back to the stage. Joe Perry declared to the crowd, "This is our first fucking gig in 2.5 years," before joking that we've all been doing this lying on our backs and watching Netflix. So they had a 17-song set. Included the revival of their 9 Lives album song for Full Circle. They did covers and songs they haven't performed in a while. They played Back in the Saddle, Same Old Song and Dance, and close out this show with Dude Looks Like a Lady and Sweet Emotion. And they played Dream On in their encore, When We Walk This Way. So they played a bunch of hits and some new stuff as well. And so it's great to have Aerosmith back together and out on the road. Okay, so 2 artists are one step closer to getting an EGOT, which an EGOT is an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. Right. And so Eminem and Adele both have egos and need to get in the Tony game to do some do some plays or something to be able to check that box off and be in the small group of people who have all 4 of those awards. Excuse me. Eminem has won a Creative Arts Emmy Award, taking him one step closer. And that he won that for the Super Bowl halftime show earlier this year that he did alongside Dr. Dre, Kendrick Lamar, Snoop Dogg, Mary J. Blige, 50 Cent, and Anderson .Paak, which won 3 prizes at the ceremony over the weekend. And then Adele, she said, "Trust me to officially have an ego." Yeah, so she has an ego now, and she found that as a pun. And she won it for her recent One Night Only show that she did. So both of them are closer. Good luck to them on that 4th step. I'm sure they're going to be working toward that. Okay, final story to close out the music news for today. NoFX is planning a breakup next year. Fat Mike broke the news in a comment on Instagram. They're set to break up at some point next year, he's revealed. And they formed back in 1983. The year I was born, a long fucking time ago. So they're apparently want to make it 40 years and then move on. So they released their 14th and most recent record single album in February 2021. Summer seen the group headline their own punk and drublic festivals across Europe and North America. I didn't go to it this year, wasn't able to, I had a conflict. But I've been to it in the past, and it's pretty darn cool, especially when you have media, because you get into the drinking early part, and you get to start the festivities a little bit early. It was a lot of fun. I think when Flogging Molly played, that was the year to go. And so he said next year. It's weird that he just commented to a fan. Here he said next year will be NoFX as last year. We will be announcing our final shows soon, and The follower had asked Mike why the group barely comes to Canada to play live shows. After fans picked up on the news, another user asked if NoFX would be performing in LA before breaking up. That Mike replied, Los Angeles will be the last place we play. It's where we started. It's where we'll end. And so you can find those posts online if you want. But someone else has confirmed the upcoming breakup to Spin as well. So it's been corroborated, but I think you can take Fat Mike's word for it, unless he's just pulling punches. We'll see what happens with NoFX. I mean, I never really got the NoFX hype. I did interview Fat Mike and Eric from NoFX once at Warped Tour many years ago. It was a cool interview. It was a rare interview because I don't think he does many interviews, but it was cool to get to chat with him. But I saw him play Warped Tour and it just seemed like a total funded performance, and I'm missing something on the NoFX train. So if you want to fill me in on kind of what the hype is about, I've seen him a couple of times live. Please let me know. You can tweet me at Concert Pipeline. I don't really check Twitter, so why don't you DM me or something on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll probably see that. That's probably the way to go. All right, that is our show for today. Thank you for tuning in. And next time on the podcast, not sure. I don't have anything lined up right now, so it might be a week before we have a show. We'll see what lands. For all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. We'll catch you next time.